Hi, everybody. Welcome. So this is Quinn, and I am super excited to share my Blissful Spirits wedding ring quilt. And I was able to take a picture of it outside with the wind blowing, and you can see the whole quilt. But it is New Mexico, and there's a lot of sand and dirt, and it's a white quilt. So I brought it inside the studio, and it is a little challenging to see it. I recognize that, but hopefully you can get the idea. And what I'll do is after the discussion, I'll go ahead and I will post a clean image of the full quilt so that you can see the whole scope of it. Hi Nana. I see lots of people that I recognize. Hi Lori. Hi Judy. So what the purpose of today is to just answer some questions and give you some information if you're interested in participating in this quilt. It's not really a demo per se. It's really an open discussion and to let you know what is going on going forward if you want to build this quilt. So the way that I've structured it right now, there's going to be 3 different 2-hour classes, and it's one purchase price. It's not that you buy one class or another class or a different class. If you sign on for the class, it is $70, and that includes the 3 sessions at 2 hours apiece. That also includes the pattern, which I've created for this quilt, and the class content. So you'll be able to watch the classes for more than just 1 month. My anticipation is that this quilt might take quite a bit of time. It's not something that you're going to do, certainly in a weekend, and even maybe a couple of months is kind of ambitious. If you really buckle down, you could do it, but it does take some time. There's a lot of cutting. None of the individual pieces of creating the quilt are complicated, but it really is an exercise in, sticking with it in order to finish the quilt. So I recognize that that may not be for everyone, but the knowledge of how to make the blocks means that you could take that knowledge and you could take the Westalee cutting tools from the double wedding ring set, and you could make any number of quilt pieces or blocks or a smaller quilt, and that knowledge that I would share would still be valuable. So for the amount of time, for your ability to watch that for a longer period of time, what our plan is we will still post the videos on YouTube after you watch them for the month, and they'll be 1 month apart. And the reason that the classes are not close together is that because this is a sew along, we want to give you time for you to be able to sew and get to the next point when we meet again. So what we'll do is I'll kind of set some parameters. If you could, have this item, this homework ready by the next session, then you'll be ready to do the activity for that next class. And that will get you at least portions of the quilt through so that you can see how to do each piece. After we finish the class content, our goal is to put it on the Sew Steady University, and all of the students that participate in the live portion will be sent a coupon so that they can sign in and continue to view the live content for however long it takes them to finish their quilt. So our goal is not to leave you in the lurch and walk away before you're finished having the support that you need to finish your quilt. One other thing that my plan is to do is anybody that signs up for the live portion of the class, I have created a private Facebook group, and those people will be eligible to be in that group. So throughout the month, as you're working on things, if you have questions, you can post them in there. If I have answers or videos or clarifications or whatever, then we can post that information in that group site where the content is protected, but you would still have access to it. And there's no extra charge for that. That's just something that we'll be doing on the side. And, if for any reason we are not able to finish the class content, which I firmly believe that we will be able to, then I will be responsible for providing any additional content that might be necessary on my own. So let's see if we have any questions so far. Does anybody have any questions? We're going to talk about tools in just a minute. And I have a supply list that I can make available, and that will come with the purchase of the pattern. There's actually a tools list and a fabric list that is part of the pattern. So let's see, let's get up a little closer, right? How much? So Dolores asked, how much is the class? The class is $70, and that includes the pattern as well. Jenny Totterdale asked, where will we sign up? So right now, I know that one of my Sew Steady buddies is working on it, and she is going to post the link right here in the comment section. And what I will do is after we finish with the broadcast, I'm going to grab that link and I'll put it up top in the comments so everybody can find it. So we'll have the Facebook group link will come after you sign up. There is also a link for shopping if you want to purchase the tools, and I'll show you the tools in just a second. But you'll be able to get that shopping link after you sign up for the class, because what they'll do is once they get your registration information, then they will send that pattern and the shopping link and the Facebook link out to you as part of that. So I had another question. Somebody asked how big the quilt is. The quilt is very big. It is a king size. It's 105 by 120 inches. It's designed so that when you use your wedding ring quilt with your special significant other, that you guys will not be playing tug of war for the covers. So the main body right there, that is the center motif of the quilt. And then you kind of see there's some negative space on each side. And those are the parts that will drape off on the edges. So 105 by 120. And if you want to make it a little smaller, the very center row, I'm going to go point to it for you. Hang on. This row right here is the center with this black and white spin in the middle. That's the center. And the gray rings that are on this end and right here on this end, these are the middle two rows. So if you take these out and you take the center row right there, the quilt still looks great. It has a little bit of a different look, but that will create a 90 by 90, which is an appropriately large queen size quilt. So that is the option for people that want to make it a little bit smaller. And the instructions and everything is the same. You're just going to be making fewer of the blocks that would be those two rows and that center column. So let's see. So I'm going to comment on Linda Mart. The quilt is not complicated to sew. Honestly, it really isn't. The curves are surprisingly gentle. They actually go together very easily. What is complicated is the organization, because there is a lot of pieces. And part of why the live quilt along is valuable is I have organized it so that you can get through it more quickly. And so that you can sort of chain piece and get large units created at a time. So one of the things that I did, the very first thing that I did is I made essentially all of the rainbow rings. So I made basically 200 of those. And they're not hard. They're all straight seams. There's nothing to curve on those when you're making those. And I could just chain stitch the bejesus out of those and mix up all of my scraps. So let me grab my little scrappies right here. So basically, you're just going to cut a billion of these little guys like this, right? I have a giant basket of it, see? And I just, at night when I was sitting around with honey, I had my little spinny mat and my rotary cutter and my single little unit, and I just cut tons of my scraps, and I kept track of keeping a variety of colors. So for mine, I tried to use most anything that was in my group. I used dark blues and teal or aqua blues because to me those are some of my favorite colors, so I wanted the quilt to lean a little bit that way. But what's funny is you can see what your actual colorway is. I always think that I don't really use red very much and that I don't use yellow very much. Well, my quilt has a ton of yellow and red and orange, a lot of it. So it's kind of warm. So I really felt like having the more blues kind of built that in. And I really struggled to find the greens that were this bright verdi green. I had to really scrape the bottom of my barrel to get those colors. So if you take it apart into pieces at a time, the quilt is very doable. It is not hard in terms of that. It does, I think, require pinning. So those people that are like, oh, I don't want to pin, I just want to sew, I really think you should pin. So that's really important. Another tool that I think is really great for this quilt is it's really important to have either a wool pressing mat or a pressing sheet, because the fabrics do have some bias, and it is important to sort of take care of that as you're pressing your units. And those pressing sheets or the wool pressing mat sort of prevents the fabric from pushing, and distorting. So that's something that is really important. So let me go through and see. We've answered a couple questions. So not quilt as you go. There is not a kit, because this quilt is really, it's designed for scrap. So there's just a lot to it. I had a lot of black and whites from previous quilts that I had made that were, red and black and white prints, mixed prints. So that's where my graphic prints came from, because I had a lot of those already. So where you see on my quilt, the black and whites, maybe you just have a lot of red, and maybe you just want to put red in there. Or, maybe you don't want to do it scrappy. That is also an option. There's different options that you can choose to make the quilt your own. I was looking for that graphic pop, and I was looking for the rainbow because I had a lot of 2.5-inch squares that were already cut from another project. So, literally had hundreds of them. So that really helped me to get the jump start on this, because that 2.5-inch square is a great pre-cut for doing those little pieces. So I was already a good bit of the way right when I started with those units in a lot of different colors. So the white fabric is about 8 yards, and the black fabric is about 5 yards. It's a lot of fabric. There's very little waste of the fabric, the way that we cut it. I think I had shared that on a previous video, how to do it, and there's really just some little scrappy stuff if you use the method that I show. It does quilt up more quickly and with less seams, so it is pretty efficient to get this accomplished. So I'm going to comment on, let's see, Fran Mansfield said that she likes the variation, and I did too. So I am a huge fan of the wedding ring, traditional, non-traditional, whatever. I've seen many different ones, and they're really beautiful, and I love them. And what I wanted is 2 things. I wanted to use up as much scrap as I could, which I used a lot. It's about 4 yards of the scrappy colored bits. If you did it by 2.5-inch squares and you added it all up, it's about 4 yards. It's a lot of scrap. And what I like about the openness areas is I want to be able to have space to have amazing quilting also. And so that's kind of a little bit on the modern, but maybe not quite ultra modern. So we're sort of in that middle of the traditional, but it has a great graphic bend to it that is really striking. And I think that is something that anybody that would see your quilt would be like, oh, that looks really great. And it's been fun. It's been really fun, a fun learning adventure. And what we want is to make sure that you can be successful and complete it as well. We don't want you to be like, oh, halfway through it, okay, I'm done. No, we want to be there to support you and help you enjoy it so you can have a beautiful finished product. All right, so let me scroll down a little bit more. So let's talk about tools. Nancy Cook just commented on the tools. And Westalee makes amazing cutting tools. So I'm just going to bring this up here. So it's hard to show everything, but I hope you'll go with me. So this is the little pamphlet right here that comes with your wedding ring set. Like when you buy set 1, This is what you get. You get this packet. And she does show you in here some ideas for the different shapes. There's different sets and different tools. So set 1 is 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the triangle and the end caps. And then this is the melon, the center portion right here of the rings. And then if you just cut the rings without the scrap, you can use this piece number 4. Because we're going to be cutting all these little scrappy bits, we need set 2, which is the smaller units. So set 2 is going to have pieces like this, which is essentially 2 units. That's 2 pieces in terms of the size. And this would be the regular without the curvy end right there. So if you didn't want to cut quite as many, you could use those and get your rings done faster. The way that I did it is all of my pieces for the rings were cut with this unit right here. Every single one of them were cut with this piece. And this piece is number 7. And then we did not use this piece, although you could. The reason I didn't use this piece is you'd have to cut right sides and left sides. So I just made all of the rings with the regular piece, and then I cut the curve in at the end with the number 4, which is the whole half of the ring. And we'll be sharing information about how to use those tools effectively. And then the last piece that you need, let me just pull it out. This is piece number 12 right here. And we need this because this is making where you just have the arc on one side and then you have a lot of fabric. So like right there, those black ones right there, that's this piece, this arc right here. So when you need just the full arc on the inside and just the ring on the outside, that's piece number 12. So in order to have all of the cutting tools that you would need for this quilt, you need sets 1, 2, and 4. You don't have to purchase set 3 at all if you don't want to, but if you wanted to, set 3 is interesting because it has different petals that you can put in the center of the quilt. So I'll just give you a little image of it. It looks like this. See? So you could do different things like this. If you wanted to put little decorative elements, it has pieces that would allow you to create these kind of looks inside of your ring. So that's just an option for you. And Leonie West also has an amazing book, and I'll just show you the cover. This is the book, and this would be something that you would purchase separately as well if you were interested. If you just love wedding rings, she's got like a bunch of different ideas, you know, different looks in here, different ways that you could use her tools. So I won't, show too much, but this is something that you could purchase separately to go with your wedding ring tools if you wanted to create more different ideas for yourself and make your own. The block itself finishes at 8, each 1 unit. So let me just show you what I mean. This square right here, each of these, every square, finishes at 8. And then what would happen is once they're sewn in, the ring itself is a 15-inch circle. So one of the thoughts I have going forward is I could use my Circles on Quilt's larger set, and I can do some of the circle work inside of the rings because I'll have the exact right size. So I'm excited about that. So let's see. Let's go on and see if we can answer some more questions. Yeah, $70. I hope you feel I'm worth it. It's not that expensive, I'm hoping. Do I need some cutting tools? Yeah, so Nana, yes, the cutting tools are the ones we just talked about, so hopefully I answered your questions. That's set 1, 2, and 4, and the 2 of the sets are $22. Set 2 and set 4 are $22, and set 1 is $26. And if you sign up and you want to purchase those through my affiliate link, I think that there is some special sales page that they're working on for me that'll be connected with this class. So you'll be able to get that once you sign up. Let's see. I'm just scrolling down so that I can see. Hello from Devin, for Ursula. Hello, Ursula. Hi, Vera. Hi, Dolores. You think it has a Native American look? How cool, Dolores. New Mexico must be rubbing off on me. There's so many cool art, Native American art here. It's amazing. It's a feast for the eyes. How many different colors? Sandy Feldman asked, how many different colors? sandy, however many colors that you want. It's your choice. So that's kind of brings up a question that one of my helpful editors, I'm going to give a shout out to Peggy Anderson. She has been helping me, and she has a really keen eye, and she's detected all kinds of little things for me as she reviewed my patterns. So I want to give her that appreciation and thank you for doing that. And she commented that people needed to have some idea of how much percentage-wise, black or white or colored or this. And what I'm going to tell you is I didn't bother with that. I really didn't. I have different scrap bins by color, and I tried to have about an even amount of reds, oranges, greens, blues, purples, teals, and I threw in pink as a red because I love pink. That's one of my favorite colors, and I have a lot of teal in different kind of aqua, turquoise, whatever, because I use that a lot. It's another one of my favorites. So any of those colors, they were fair game because that was me. It would lean the quilt more the way that I like in terms of colors. But anything was red, anything that was reading as a more mono. There are several in there that have multiple tones, but most of the pieces are a little bit more monochromatic so that they show a little better. But like I've got cats in there. My kids found some cats. There's some little owl in there somewhere. There's little Christmas something. There's little birthday candles. There's little dots, candy canes. I don't know. There's everything in there. And it all works out. If you want your quilt to lean a certain direction, then for every handful of mixed colors that you put in, you're going to put a handful of that other color in too. So like if I have an even amount of blues, greens, reds, yellows, purple on the table, and I want it to lean red or warm, I'm going to put an extra handful of yellow and an extra handful of red and maybe half an orange, something like that. You can lean this easily anywhere you want. You can also say, well, I just want it to go on one side of the colorway. I'm going to pick, teal, pink, blue, purple. That's it, and no reds and no yellows or whatever. And I think that when you first start, you should make a few of the rings and see how you like it before you make all 200 of them. And that way you can see how they feel, and you can see, do I need an extra color here or do I need another color here to create that diversity? So that's really up to you. And one of the things I thought I would do, and you guys should add in if you think this is a good idea, I have a lot of extra cut pieces. So if somebody wants 100 pieces and they want to send 100 pieces to somebody else, I am interested in maybe doing some block exchange to create more variety because, like I said, I didn't have enough green. I really would have wanted some more greens, and that wasn't a color I had. So if you think that would be fun, that would be something that we can also organize with our class. So go ahead and put a note in the comments if you think that would be a good idea and you'd like to do that. How could you shade? Let me see. I got to scoot over because I can't read the comment. Hang on just a second. How many shades of blue? So I used whatever I had. There's probably 20 or 30 different shades of blue in there. I used whatever I had. So I didn't really worry about too many shades. I think when you do a scrap quilt like this, more is better. More color is better. Because what happens, the more that you get in there, then everything has the potential to blend. Like when you can see up close now, there's a lot of different shades, a lot of different greens. There's oranges, there's corals. The only thing that I recommend not using, don't use something that reads as black. Like I have purple that had black in it. That was a no-go. It has to be brighter because what happens if that purple ends up against a black triangle? It bleeds out. You can't see it. Or don't use something that's so light of a blue that it reads as white, because if it ends up against white, it's going to bleed out. So that's really the one thing. You want to have colors that have the vibrancy, that don't kind of wash out, that aren't muddy, and that's going to really show the best. So let's see. Let's keep going. So somebody said they did a single wedding ring and that she felt like it was very easy. Well, thank you for adding that in. As I said, these curves are surprisingly gentle. Because the circle is so big, you're only sewing a quarter of it at a time. I only had to pin the ends and the center, and I was easily able to ease in the curve. So if you've ever wanted to get good at sewing that curved, this is a really great introduction because it is not that hard. It is surprisingly easy. And if you don't believe me, you can watch my video that we already did for this because I already showed you how to sew it. But I'll show you again, don't worry. Jenny, yes, the pattern will be downloadable. So if you sign up for the class, the pattern is only available right now downloadable. You'll only be able to get it as a digital PDF. If you want a printed pattern, you have to pay for that separately because right now the cost of that and our ability to connect it to the class, that is where that cost comes in. And then if they have to print it and then mail it to you, that's a totally separate cost. So if you can have a printed pattern if you want it, it will be available on Sew Steady, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. But that would be a separate cost, and then you would have to pay for the printed pattern. But yes, they will all be downloadable. So thank you, Jenny. That was a good question. Let's see. Yeah, so I see somebody said, could you do shades of blue instead of rainbow? I guess I read that wrong in the past. I didn't answer the question correctly. Yes, of course. You can do whatever you want. If you have a giant vat of blue of all different shades, the one thing you want to watch for is you want to have different value of blue because you can't have two of the same value of blues right next to each other. What makes this work is when we put the different colors together, you'll see that I tried to make sure that even if I had a similar color, like a pink next to a red, I made sure that I had a value change so that the pink would be lighter than the red. Or if I had a yellow and an orange, the orange would be vibrant and the yellow would be lighter. So that way you get that contrasty look. And we'll talk more about that when we have the class and we're making those units. Okay, good question. Somebody just said, when will the class start? So let me get my cheat sheet. I don't want to tell you anything wrong. The first class is March 29th, this month, in about 2+ weeks, and it will be at 3 o'clock Pacific time. And I'm going to actually put all these class dates in the header as soon as the video posts. It's easier to sometimes edit it afterwards because then I can go on the computer and not try to type in all of that stuff from my phone. So the first class is the 29th of March, and the way that we will be doing it, it'll be hosted on YouTube, and it will be available on YouTube for that 4-week session. And then after that, we're going to be taking that video content and transferring it onto the university. So you will still be able to watch it. You will not be sort of cut off at that 4-week mark. I know this quilt will take longer than 3 months for many people. Not for everybody, but for some people. We want to make sure that you have that support for a longer period of time. We recognize that this is not a one and done type of project. The second class date is April 26th. There is 1 month in between because we want to give you time to make pieces of it so that when we're doing the quilt along, you are ready and you can at least sew another few sets of pieces. So in between the class, that way you have time, and I will give you a minimum quota of certain pieces that I want you to prepare so that you can get the best out of that quilt along time by actually being able to piece a 4-patch unit of this at a time. So that'll be something important. The last class date is May 24th, and that's the week before Memorial Day, so it's not a holiday. We already checked on that. And that way we'll have those 3 sessions. As I said, there's some other supportive things that I'll be doing. I've got some little PDF things that you can print out and put next to your pressing station as a quick reference guide. That information's in the pattern, but I've made it bigger so you can literally have a big piece of paper the same size as your block and put it right next to your print station and then know which, am I pressing this way or that way? And those type of things will be available through that private group so that you can have extra support. And that way we can keep those questions available. So if you have a question and I answer it, then if somebody else has the same question, we have a resource for that material so that they can watch that as well. So that's the class dates. Will I be demonstrating? Yes, I assume that I will be. What else would I be doing? Sandy asked me, will I be demonstrating ways to quilt it? Oh, I didn't read it all the way. Sorry, some of your words are covered up by the clip. Okay, so here's my thought on that. For the class, no quilting of this finished product is included at this time. Just to be clear, I don't want anybody to think that that is what this is. This is building this top, piecing it, and tips to make it faster, easier, more accurate, less bias problems, so that you can get it done, because it is big. I haven't quilted it yet, and I don't actually have my quilt plan all tidied up in my brain, and I will probably end up quilting this on my long arm because it is really big. But I can make some suggestions as we go forward, and I do have some ideas that I would be willing to share, but I just can't say that I have that available at this time because that would be untruthful. So hopefully that is clear, and I will try to do that as we go forward. So let's see, I gotta scroll down because we have lots of people talking. So Carol Gammon, I'm gonna answer your question. I did not starch my fabric. However, I do think that's a good idea. When I realized that was a good idea, I had already built a bunch of the quilt. And that was, when I did a little sneak peek like 2 months ago before I moved. And then I kind of felt like it would be weird to stabilize some parts of the quilt and not the other, because then they wouldn't all mesh together. And I was very fortunate. I did have to ease a few areas, but not too many. It actually worked out pretty good, and it seems like it lays pretty flat. It doesn't seem like it's really wavy or anything. But I do recommend that. And the other big thing that will help with that is having the wool pressing mat and having a press cloth. Those are the two things that I think are indispensable in terms of the supplies if you want to make this class. One or the other. You don't have to have both of those, just one. So that is something that I think will really help with that. And I'm going to show you how to press it so that we don't distort it, because there's things that we can do that'll make that easier. Let's see. So Sandy had a really good question. She said, what white did I use and where did I get it? If you're interested in talking to my shop, they already know that I've done this quilt and they often carry a lot. The white that I used was actually Hoffman PDF, which is called Prepared for Dye. It was a very white, shiny white fabric. And it's very much the same on either side, so it didn't matter if I cut like a right side or a left side of something. I was able to flip it over. So that was pretty easy. So I can share that. If you message me privately, I'll share that. I don't want to cut any of your local quilt shops out, but I did use Hoffman white batik, and I used Hoffman Raven black batik for the black. And the reason I use batik is because it is the same color. So if I needed to flip something to a different side, some of them, they are only unidirectional when you cut them. So if you cut them a different way, they can't always fit. So I felt like that gave me more flexibility if I needed it to go to one side or the other. So let's see. Hopefully that answered that question. So Cheryl Craig, so the information about this beautiful quilt, the pattern is going to be available if you sign up for the class. As I said, if you don't want to take the class, that's fine. I totally understand. Lots of people don't need that. They can just do it with the pattern and the tools. You can still purchase the tools through my affiliate link if you want to, through So Steady. And if you just want the pattern, ultimately it will be on So Steady. It might not be on there like today or tomorrow, but they have it and they will be getting it posted at some level. And I think right now we're offering a PDF for a certain price, and then it may be a little bit more for the printed pattern. So like maybe it's $20 for just the regular pattern, and if you're getting the printed pattern, it might be $25. It's about 20 pages, single-sided, as far as the content. So that's where it is, and we're getting that to you. Can you quilt as you go? Nancy, I think every quilt can be made quilt as you go, but think about it this way. Do you want sashing on this on the front, which is what you would sort of end up with, I think, if you did it quilt as you go? You'd have to figure out how you're going to sew the top units together and sash the back. And I have not prepared that level of instruction for this quilt. it's not that you can't do it, but that pattern is not going to have that kind of information. That would be something you would have to come up with on your own in order to do this quilt as you go. So absolutely, oh, excuse me. You can definitely do that, but that's going to take a little bit more work on your part. And Peggy, Peggy, I answered the question about quilting would be not part of this initial class. If I do any of the quilting content later, that would be an extension. That would be a separate class. So, let's see. So we said when it would start. And let's see. Oh, I know. You know what? This quilt's not for everybody. I appreciate if you just like it, but you don't want to make it. I'm fine with that. That doesn't hurt my feelings. I think you should make whatever is life-giving for you and what you enjoy and what you think that you could complete and enjoy. So no problem. So we talked about when it started. Templates are not included with the cost of the class. The $70 essentially is paying for the pattern and then for our 6 hours of class, right? So that's what the $70 is covering. And then I think it's $70 for the tools. It's $26, $22, $22, and I'm not sure what the discount might be when Sew Steady posts that at this point, but that should be here pretty soon. So those would be a separate purchase. Oh, she's already got 800 scraps. Awesome. So it's about 1,600 scraps in order to have a good diverse amount of scrap to choose from for all of the rainbow pieces. And that is a big number, but it does cut up pretty fast. And once I got them all, I kind of just was able to stick them in the basket. And that's what I did. I didn't actually sort them by color. So I'm going to just show you what I did. I just was like, okay, smash, smash, there you go. Okay, now they're all mixed up. Now just sew a bunch. And then as I got down, if I didn't have a color that I needed, there was no yellow in this ring or no green in this ring, then I would just dig around to find the one missing color to finish that ring. So I am not a fabric vendor, Esther, so I don't have the ability to sell a kit for that fabric because it's a lot of yardage. So I don't have that. I'm sorry. Let's see. Okay. So is there any last questions? So we've explained about the timeline, the group, the amount of fabric, and I will go ahead and post the supply, a picture of the supply list. I don't think that's, proprietary. I think you kind of need to know that before you get started. And I'll also post the fabric as a picture in the comments. I want it to be in this post where you can find it. Maybe I'll make it a link so that you can click on it up in the top. So it'll have the supply list and it'll have the fabric requirements for the king size, because that is what this quilt is basically made as. To make it a queen, you can do it, but you just have to adapt it. I don't have exact content information for that in this. So I'll put a link to those two items. Sew Steady is going to post the class sign up link, and that should be available today if it's not posted right in this. They said they were going to try to put it right in the comments, but if they don't, I should have it within another hour or so, so I'll post that. And if you already have your stuff and you already have your cutting tools, my advice to you is start cutting the little bitty bits. Take this little guy, number 7. Ooh, here, we'll put him out here so you can see him a little better. Right there. And start cutting him. Cut a bunch of them in every color that you have. Lots and lots and lots. Because that's really the limiter in terms of time. Once we get those rings made, the other pieces are a little easier. And so once I get the registration, the week before, I'm going to send out a little email and the reference to the previous video where I showed the cut down and tell you how many pieces that you need to have prepared so that you can sew with me on the first class. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all of your time, and I hope that we've got your questions answered. If I don't have everybody's question answered, I'll go back through the feed after the video is over and I will make sure that we have all of your questions answered. You can also message me. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll be sure to make sure you have whatever you need in terms of knowledge so that you can sign up. So although the link may not be ready right now, it'll be ready today. So hopefully you'll just be patient with us, but we are getting that all set up so we can have everything be easy and convenient. Okay? All right, thank you guys. Happy quilting. I hope you have a wonderful day. Have fun.